I see you. A man with books. Wonderful, wonderful.
If only
How
I
many
could read
books have
them.
you got?
Oh, this is just a fraction of my books. We've moved 4 months ago, and most of them are still in boxes.
Yes,
How are
yes.
you,
Pretty good, sir.
John? Can I call you John?
You may.
Oh, okay. It's such a pleasure to talk to you today. I was really looking forward to connecting with you.
Pleasure is mine, dear fellow. The pleasure is mine. Have you heard this little podcast at all?
I have, I have.
And does it meet with your
Oh,
critical approval?
yeah, it does. You're the perfect narrator. So everybody, you've got such a good, unmistakable voice, very soothing voice, and this is a great story told in a new way, right? I love the idea of the podcast. I love this modern, even though it's not a modern story, but telling it in a modern way. How did you get involved with it?
Oh, they asked me, which is rather nice, and it's always nice to be asked to do things. Obviously, I know the story. I knew the story before, and I actually have done the story before. I did the Mormon Tabernacle Choir Christmas show about, good Lord, 2011 was it, something like that. And it was a Dickens Christmas, and I flew over the audience, which was rather nice.
Oh wow, wow.
Um,
Very cool.
yes, great fun, great fun.
Why do you think this story, as I was thinking about it, why do you think this story still resonates with people so well? I know there's a story of a transformation, basically, and we love that, the redemption of somebody. You want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Well, yes. It actually is not only a story about transformation. It came at a very low point in Dickens's life. Um, he'd had personal losses. Um, he was financially in a very difficult position. Um, and I think he was depressed. He was suffering from depression. And I think he was also suffering from writer's block. Um, and when you've got a family and you're dependent on what you produce, it must have been terrifying. There was no safety net in Victorian England. If you fell, you could fall all the way
Mm-hmm.
into debtor's prison, perhaps. Um, so the burden of responsibility was on him. Uh, and as he developed this story while walking the streets in despair, really, and seeing the poverty around him. And, sometimes when we see real poverty, when we see that desolation of the spirit, it infects us.
Right.
Um, you know, that when you've seen horrors, sometimes they infect you, they fill you with despair. I have certainly known that because I've had a rather interesting and adventurous life. Um, but for him, and of course, that time of year, I suspect, like most people, he suffered from seasonal affective depression.
Right.
I suffer from it as well. The end of the year, uh, what have I done? I've done nothing this year with nothing that's significant. My life is going, and and the whole point of Christmas and the Christmas story itself is about the rebirth of hope and the rebirth of joy,
Yes.
and and we all need that. Great stories are always moral stories and about the presence of ill or evil and the overcoming of that. And the hardest thing for us all to do is to realize that we can change, you know, and we can become better people.
Yes.
But we would have to be honest with ourselves and realize, you know, uh, in what ways that we need to become better people. And we can seldom do that.
Yeah.
Knowing yourself and being honest with yourself is not something that necessarily comes easily.
Right.
Anyway, yes, and of course there is the parallel with Gimli in Lord of the Rings that you've doubtless noticed. He's the most human of those characters.
Right.
You know, he is us with the xenophobia, the aggression, the hostility, the suspicion, the prejudices. You know, never
Yeah.
trust a dwarf. Um, and in the course of the event, and yet he's got all the characteristics that we would wish we had.
Yeah.
You know, generosity of spirit, kindness, protectiveness,
Heroism.
heroism, real,
Yeah.
real courage.
Right.
And it can go from being never trust a dwarf to being meeting Galadriel,
Yeah.
who he falls instantly and totally in love with.
Yeah. Who wouldn't?
Yep, indeed. What a marvelous cast, by the way, wasn't it? And
Yes.
aren't we lucky to have Sean Astin in this?
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Totally different part for him, and wonderful.
You're the third Indiana Jones actor I've met this year.
Oh, really?
Because I interviewed Karen
Yes.
earlier the year, and then I met Harrison at Critics' Choice. So, what a cultural! I mean, you're part of two huge institutions in entertainment.
Yes,
what a blessing it is.
It is. It's been wonderful. But I particularly like I particularly like these Christmas shows that, you know, are not frantically cobbled together, you know, basic versions of the same thing. The Christmas Story and the birth of Christianity,
yes,
are monumental developments,
yes,
in the history of civilization, in the history of mankind.
Yes.
And to be able to get that wonder of those shepherds in the field, for instance,
yeah,
an astonishing revelation, and to get that sense that, you know, yes, the year comes to an end. It is dark and gloomy, but there is hope born.
right,
That there is, when we celebrate the birth of Christ, it can change our hearts and minds.
yes.
That's pretty marvelous and glorious.
I love how "Oh Holy Night" kind of details that whole thing. You know, the thrill of hope. A weary world rejoices. You know, the world is weary and tired and dark, and now we have hope.
Yes, and now we have hope, and we need hope.
Yeah.
But, you know, if we look around, there is hope.
Yes.
The hope is the accomplishments of all those who had hope that came before us.
Yes.
You live in the greatest society that mankind has ever known. You live in a great democracy that believes in freedom of speech, freedom of association, has abandoned and abhors slavery, that believes that there should be equality between people, and not be and that we should not discriminate on the grounds of race or gender.
Right.
These are glories. These are the signs of hope. And what we have to do is just stop being gloomy and pessimistic, though there are real dangers out there. I think the world is a more dangerous place now than at any time in my life. And I try to get into Oxford during Cuba week. So I sort of know that sort of existential fear quite well.
John, it's such an honor to talk to you. Come to my church and preach that sermon anytime. You're an inspiration. I appreciate it.
Well, I would love to talk.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's a blessing.
Peace out our imperfections with your writing and your kind words.
Thank you.